When it comes to money, have you ever thought, how come nobody ever taught us this stuff? Well, this is the video that I want you to share with someone who needs to learn this stuff. Today, I am talking about just the 4 basics of personal finance. Hey there, if you are new here, my name's Terry Slater. I am a personal finance coach and I do come out with videos every single week, so you can subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell to be notified. Okay, today what we're going to talk about is just 4 really simple components to winning with money. So here's what they're going to be. Number 1, spend less than you earn. Number 2, save for emergencies and big purchases. Number 3, invest for the future. And number 4, avoid high interest debt. You might be thinking that sounds oversimplified, but we're going to dig deeper into each one of these. But first, I'd love to hear 1, 2, 3, or 4, put it in the comments. Which one of these things do you feel like you've got a lot of control over right now that you can really change or impact your financial situation if you just pay a little more attention to it? Okay, so number 1, let's dive into spend less than you earn. So there's a few different ways that this can show up for people if you are not adhering to this rule right now. Number 1 is that you may have an income problem. So maybe your expenses have been the same for a while, but you've had a change of your income situation. So maybe it's not so much that you're overspending, but something's happened to that income. So now that part of the equation is what you've got to look at. You need to either figure out a way to be making more money or changing jobs, or if it's your new reality, you may have to then look at cutting expenses. Okay, the second thing is if you have an expense problem. So maybe you are, operating on the same income that you've had for a while, but your expenses just kind of keep creeping up. And this can happen a lot when you've started getting into credit card debt or have taken out a bunch of different loans and now you have a whole bunch of payments. So sometimes those are those are some of the expenses that will kind of get in the way of making progress, or you just may need to look at your overall spending habits. Okay, another one might be an organizational problem. So what I mean by this is we all have varying expenses throughout a given year. So what you may spend around the holidays is probably not the same as what you spend in, May or June. So we all have different things that come up at different times of the year. And so if you just need to be planning ahead a little bit better in order to make sure that you can cover those expenses, that would be more on the organizational side. Okay, and then lastly, not being able to spend less than you earn could just be a behavioral thing. So if you have certain triggers that are kind of popping up for you and it's making you spend more money that you weren't really planning on it. Couple different ways that can be showing up is if you get emails from different companies that you love their products and there's a big sale, or if you've got a soft spot for giving and all of a sudden there's a natural disaster and you feel like I really want to help, so you contribute some money. These are great things to do, but you don't want it to be at your own detriment. So you've got to plan that into your life a little bit if you want to be giving to charitable organizations or something like that. Okay, so that's spending less than you earn. Next, let's look at saving for emergencies and big purchases. Let's start with the big purchases. And I'm just going to go on record here and say a lot of us could use a lot more exercise when it comes to delayed gratification. So if you think to yourself, like, I'd really like to go on a trip, and then you just plan it 2 months from now and you didn't bother to save up for it, then it could potentially go on a credit card. And then if that balance doesn't get paid off, that lingers with you a little bit. So if you know that you like to travel, you can start to set aside a little bit of money every single month, and then you're planning for that in the future. So that's saving up for bigger purchases or anything that you want to buy. If you want to buy a house, you save up for down payment. If you want to buy a car, you save up for either a down payment or the entire car, right? So delayed gratification means saving up for things. Okay, next is saving for emergencies. There's a lot of different schools of thought around this, so I'm going to tackle a couple really quickly. Number one, having a starter emergency fund means that you've got about $500 to $1,000 in the bank so that when something comes up that you weren't expecting, that money is there and you can cover it. And $500 will cover a lot of things. You know, if your clothes washer suddenly breaks, you may not be able to go buy a really nice top of the line new washer for $500, but you better believe you can go find one on Facebook Marketplace or an appliance outlet store, something that will get you by for $500 or less. I guarantee it's a challenge sometimes to do that kind of thing, but $500 will get you pretty far with basic emergencies. Also, think about it. If you have somebody that you know who is getting married, or unfortunately there's now a funeral, you would like to have the money set aside so that you're able to go to that and you don't have to make a decision about missing a really important event because you didn't have the money for it. Okay, so that's saving up just a little for emergencies, but next would be that school of thought of saving 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. I want to tackle this right away because a lot of people say that is just unreasonable, but I want you to think about this. If the shit hits the fan, if you lose your income and you've still got all these expenses, you better believe you're probably going to let some things go. I know that if I suddenly had no income, things like Netflix or Spotify subscriptions are going to be the first to go, because if you want to cut expenses, that's what you're looking at as kind of the oh shit budget, right? So when you're thinking about saving 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, I want you to be thinking about what would I need to cover in a given month for just my basic needs. And I mean housing, utilities, transportation so you can keep on looking for work, having your basic insurance covered, and food, right? So just those things only. Take that on a monthly basis and multiply it by 3 or 6, and that's a really great place to start. Also, if your income fluctuates a lot, you want to lean heavier towards that 6 month worth of expenses than the 3. If you're self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, you're in sales, you've got times of the year that your income really dips and then other times where it's really great. I want you to take those times that it's really great and make sure that you're setting aside a buffer for the times that it is not so great. All right, that is number 2, saving for emergencies and saving for big expenses. Next, let's look at number 3, which is going to be investing for the future. The difference between investing and savings is that with investing, you are generally taking on a little bit more risk in order to have a bigger reward, meaning you're getting more interest from the money that's invested. When you've got money just sitting in savings, we're talking about down at your local bank. It's super easy to get your hands on. If you have an emergency, you can just go and get that money right out of savings. You're not having to sell shares, of a mutual fund that you're invested in and then wait 3 days for the money to clear and get it. Or even worse, if it's not even worse, but differently, if it's locked up in retirement accounts, you can't just be pulling from that money, at least not without taxes and penalties. So the difference between investing is that that's looking long-term for your future. That's money that you want to put away and just forget about it. Saving is what you're just going to set aside in the bank so it's easy to get to. Okay, so that's the difference between investing and saving. And really, I want you to, if you want any information moving forward that's going to incentivize you to want to invest, just start looking up compound interest. There's a ton of different examples that are out there that explain how your money grows more money when it's being invested, and just find something that gives you some good encouragement, and investing is an option for you. And of course, you can invest in real estate, you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in a lot of different ways. Not going to get into that in this video, but just want you to understand the basic difference between saving and investing. Okay, the last thing is avoiding high interest credit card debt. Here's the thing. If you have credit cards, don't use them as an extension of your income. If you don't have the money in your bank account to pay for something, don't put it on a credit card if you don't have the means to pay that back right away. That's when you start getting into trouble, when you're paying interest and rolling over those balances month over month over month. Also, something to look out for is when lenders will loan you a certain amount that they say that you qualify for, right? You'll get a credit card for this line of credit or a mortgage for this amount, but really what you need to look at is, can you afford to pay it back? Because oftentimes, especially in the mortgage industry, they are really willing to loan you this maximum amount so that you can get as much house as you can, but sometimes the payments aren't always affordable. So just be realistic in looking at what you can afford to pay back. And then really when we're talking about high interest credit card debt, this is anything that has interest higher than what you could be earning if your money was invested. So some things are a no-brainer, right? Like high interest credit cards in the 20s, even in the high teens. If you have like payday loans, anything like that, those are outrageously high interest debts, and you want to get those paid off as soon as possible, because when you're not making payments and you know, spending money on interest, right, you're losing money to interest. If you get that money back into your possession every single month, then you can be investing it and earning interest. So the difference between paying interest and earning interest is exponential. So definitely make sure that you are eliminating or just avoiding altogether high interest debt. Okay, that covers the 4 basics. I'm going to read them again. Spend less than you earn. Number 2, save for emergencies and big purchases. Number 3, invest for your future. And number 4, avoid high interest debt. All of these things are really simple in their structure, right? The concepts are not difficult, but we are humans, and human nature is we do things sometimes that are irrational and aren't always in our best interest. And no judgment. I've done it. Many of us have done it. That is what coaching is for. So I like to try to help you identify some of the keys to move the needle so that you can get going in the right direction with your money. So one of the first things I would ask of you is to just really know yourself. Know, you know, if there are different things that trigger you to spend and how can you avoid those things. There's a lot of personality factors that really impact how it is that you relate with money, how you relate with others around money, those kind of things. I'll link to a personality quiz below that you can take, and I do offer a free phone call to discuss your results as well. So we can talk about your results and we can talk about 1 or 2 key things that you can address in order to move forward and be financially successful. And also just know your values, know what makes you happy. It's totally okay to be spending your money on things that make you happy, but also make sure that you are saving for your future too, because when you have a big pile of money in your possession, it really allows you the freedom to make different choices. It allows you to slow down, to breathe, to think through what your options are, leave situations that stink. You know, it gives you a lot of options. So make sure that you are spending to have some fun, but also saving up for the what ifs and for your future. All right, I hope that you have found this helpful today. Please do subscribe if you want more videos like this, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.